Welcome back, everyone, to the VCS Winter Split. We are still here, relentlessly casting and analyzing games. It's day 5 of week 1. We are just about to jump into SGB against SBTC, a clash for the first place to close out the week for these teams. And I'm honored to welcome 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗀𝗺 back to the desk. And I want to start with a little bit of a broader point. 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀 is a projected top 3 team, and they are 2-0 right now. So what does this series mean for them?
I mean, it comes to this first week has been competition against some of their bottom or lesser projected teams. They're not playing anybody who currently is sitting in a position in those top 3 spots that are undefeated right now. And so this is supposed to be the week of them, I think, putting together what their roster was supposed to look like, now testing Shogun versus Variety, making sure that their game planning is all together, and it's them just taking easy wins. In the previous split, they had problems with like losing random games to like 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗀, Team Flash, when they weren't that competitive. This is supposed to be the testament to them actually becoming consistent very quickly, and then the real competition comes down the line when they start facing teams like what would be Cerberus in this particular case.
They did, in fact, lose a game to 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗏, so what is the verdict so far? Are they on track?
So my biggest thing about what's happening right now inside of the league is that as soon as patch 11.23 drops, literally nothing that's happened so far matters in the slightest, other than series score and game score, right? Like, so as long as teams are winning, I don't care whether it's a 2-1 or not, because it's not going to matter in 1 month's time or 2 months time or 3 days time. I really don't know how VCS is actually going to handle this patch cycle, but one way
Oh
or
yeah.
another, we're going to end up in a place where it's going to be completely out the window and everything's going to change all at once. And by that time period, again, it's going to be a lot more important about the series score. So at the moment, I mean, if every series is a 2-1, I'm okay with that for any team.
Oh, fair enough. 𝘀𝗀𝗧𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, I want to ask you about the early game for the Buffaloes, because we knew them last in Spring Split, I should say, for being the most scripted team, as we would like to call them all the time. So they had early game plans, 1 to 10 minutes, everything planned out, the invade structure and everything like that. So the early games always looked super good. Their stats were amazing. How does it look like so far in week 1?
So yeah, that's an interesting point, especially considering what 𝘀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 was saying, that they have been handed 3 wins, but still, even in those 3 wins, they have looked a bit more shaky compared to the spring split. Especially, I have noticed that in the like 10 to 20 minutes mark, they tend to rush some play or to make some desperate decision that, yes, eventually they can pull off. They have the skill to make them work, but still it's looking very different from a few months ago. And this is for sure something that I'm confident they will fix it as the games on stage start to pile up. And this is probably also due to 𝘁𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 not being in top form, but he was the centerpiece of these early game plays and direction. So I believe once 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 gets his footing back, then these kinks will be ironed out.
So would it be fair to say that 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is a little bit in a little bit of a sophomore slump? Second split, he has played and he's not looking as great. Do you think that's already fair to say, 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗀, or do we wait with judgment a little bit longer, give him a little bit more time to adjust?
So of course, 1 week might not be enough to have a complete judgment, but it could also be that in spring, 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's form was highlighted by the junglers that were available at the moment, which were, I remember, the Udyr, the 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, that gave him a lot of agency in the early game with the ganks and so on. And of course, these same champions are not so impactful at the moment, and of course, it means that he needs to adapt to a very different style of jungling that made him successful in the last split. So it could also be that. I hope it's not, because I want to see a new great jungler that can adapt to different metas.
Okay, so to not only focus on 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗏, I know it's the favorite team for most of us here. I also want to shed some light on SBTC, because surprising to most of us, they are sitting atop the standings, 4-0 in game score, looking absolutely amazing so far. So this is actually a clash for the top, as I introduced when we started this pre-game, and especially the newer players, or new players at least on this team, are intriguing to me. So Rebel, walk me through 𝘀𝗀𝗃 and Penguin. What have they brought to the table for this team, and why does this team look so strong?
So first things first, I guess like 𝘀𝗀𝗃 stepping in as a effectively full rookie, we had low expectations, especially after last split where we had 3-4 new top laners kind of step into roles, especially starting roles of like 𝘀𝗀𝗃 comes about, 𝘁 comes about as positions in top lane, and none of them really shined in their first split. Yet somehow 𝘀𝗀𝗃 actually comes out in the first 2 weeks of VCS Winter and looks pretty good. Like, looks pretty solid against even decent competition, which is a big step up from what we saw in previous splits, where I think our rookie top laners really kind of got battle tested, and they got shot down really quickly against some of the top level competition. So it's nice to see some new players kind of stepping into roles very quickly. The last person to really do that was 𝘁𝗲. Not saying that 𝘀𝗀𝗃 is anywhere near where 𝘁𝗲 was when he first stepped in, but at minimum, it's not a player who is a liability to the team like some of them were in the previous split. The other big addition to the team was Penguin, which is DK renamed to Penguin over the course of the splits. I want to talk about the fact that our jungle competition in the VCS has actually stepped up ridiculously from previous splits. I mean, you would talk about Cerberus. I mean,
Stacked.
Ego stepped up. It is stacked. I mean, Ego is back on form. You talk about you have 𝘁𝗀𝗃 from the previous split, Levi from the previous split. Both of them have actually had relatively not great splits to start things off, because then Penguin has stepped. DNK just had an amazing little series. 𝘀𝗃𝗃 is still 𝘀𝗃𝗃. He does everything every once in a while. And then Killer Queen has stepped up, is arguably one of, if not the top performing jungler in the league right now. It's kind of incredible how much our junglers have stepped up. And this level of competition that you're playing against has been incredible, which is why Penguin's kind of short spurts of brilliance have been even better, is because this level of competition is high and he still stands out among all of them.
That's very fair. So Penguin looking very, very good. 𝘀𝗀𝗃 still solid so far, but we don't really know. He had one really bad game, if I remember correctly. But Clockwork, maybe you can walk me through a little bit more of the team-focused stats. What do you think? What is SBTC so far? What are their preferences? Where are they strong? Very quickly, please, as we jump into the draft.
There's one stat that impressed me positively, even if it's a negative stat, because they're very much far behind in the early game, usually 700 gold behind. And despite that, they managed to win some games. So it means that they have an idea of how to come back and how to team fight, which is a very important skill in the VCS.
Okay, thank you. That was very quick. And as we jump into draft for game one, what are both of these teams looking to draft? We have 𝘁𝗏𝗃, Camille, and Renekton banned for SGB on the blue side. 𝘁𝗏𝗃 maybe a little bit of an interesting one, as 𝘁𝗏𝗃 has already played 𝘁𝗏𝗃. So surprising that they were not willing to maybe even first pick or contest this champion at all. On the other side, SPT is starting out with 𝗀𝗏𝗃 and Froggy's world-famous TF, so trying to get rid of that roaming power. And instead, the cat is open. So Rebel, cat, what are you thinking here?
It's nice to see. I prefer 𝘁𝗏𝗃 on something that's a bit more skill expressive, but it's something that allows Shogun, I think, to be a bit more on point with what he's looking for. And it also pairs with a couple of people, because 𝘁𝗀𝗃 sometimes likes to play these like run at you type champions, things like the Udyr and things that fit well with the Yuumi, put the Yuumi into good positions to use that ultimate. Froggy could be that kind of person too. 𝘁𝗏𝗃 can always play Aatrox or something like that. And so I think it fits really well with the multiple carries that are set up here for the side of Saigon. Also seems to be like, outside of banning, I think he's pretty much the only person who's played it, so perhaps the one support that's taken a liking to the cat inside of the VCS so far.
Hero on the other side securing yet another Aurelia, so even though he's a top laner, they give him his top lane champions and he gets away with this. I was maybe eyeing a little bit of a target for Hero, because maybe you can push him down in the champion pool, but Clockwork, do you like what you're seeing so far for SPTC? What are they building a little bit on the top side so far?
Let me say that this is allowed only because Penguin can play some array of AP junglers, like the Nidalee. He played also Leah. So this choice to pick double top laners, let's say one in top lane and one in mid, is allowed only because Penguin can do that. And of course, it probably won't be a trend when Artifact comes back, but it seems to be working so far, and if it's not broken, why change it?
then 𝘀𝗀 on the other side. 𝘀𝗀𝗋∗. Have we seen 𝘀𝗀𝗋○?
Yeah, he poked into the 𝘀𝗀 game a little bit. I think this was the pivotal 𝘀𝗀 champion because his laning was relatively abysmal. He got soloed by 𝘀𝗀 a couple of times, but his team fighting was immaculate, which is kind of just like the way of 𝘀𝗀 most of the time. He's improved his laning dramatically since he first entered, which is one of the cool things about 𝘀𝗀. But as I liked to say on that broadcast specifically, he gives hope to all of us who can't actually lane that maybe perhaps we can make it professional one day, because he seemed to figure it out to some extent, which was, again, that was huge crux. He was playing it well. He's not as good as 𝘂𝗀. Obviously, 𝘂𝗀's got the best 𝘀𝗀s, I think, inside of the VCS that we've seen so far. But 𝘀𝗀's definitely a relatively close second.
If I remember correctly, we actually saw this exact match of 𝘀𝗀 against 𝘀𝗀 multiple times in the SBTC series, so something as the hero especially is very familiar with. He didn't really seem to have many options in lane to actually go for solo kills or anything, because 𝘀𝗀 with her permanently refreshing fear against jumping champions like 𝘀𝗀 was able to just disengage all the time. But that's a 𝘁𝗀crank on my screen.
Okay, so like I was eyeing the support bans on 𝘁𝗆lo's side because, of course, SBTC already had the Jhin, so they needed some support that allowed them to match the Misfortune and Yuumi. And this is like, what is it? Two pigeons with one seed. Because if you grab the Misfortune, you also get a bonus Yuumi. So this is a very smart
Two birds
pick.
with one stone. Yeah.
Birds with one stone, correct. It's still birds. So yeah, it's the chickens, but on the other side of the stone. Yeah. And the CBL, I don't remember him playing this champion, so I'm very curious if he can pull this off. And on the other side, we go for the heavy AD with the Talon and Aatrox.
This 𝘁𝗀crank into MF Yuumi strikes me as very strange, because MF is so fast, so it's super hard to ever get into position to catch her, and then Yuumi is just not targetable, so... Rebel, do you know what's going on there? Is the 𝘁𝗀crank actually a counter pick into the Yuumi?
I will say, I think that the ultimate actually counts as a way to prevent Yuumi from reattaching, because it's something that prevents, it's CC that prevents her from attaching, which I think does prevent her from reattaching. So if you have a flash ultimate on 𝘁𝗀crank, you can at least prevent the Yuumi if she decides to keep popping out and harassing you the way that she should be during the course of the laning phase. And maybe that's the thought process here. And like, obviously Clockwork was alluding to, the two birds, one stone. When Yuumi attaches to what is, the Talon, the Misfortune, the 𝘀𝗀, or the Aatrox, which did somehow pop up here. I don't know how in the world that we got that out of nowhere, but
it's Hosmed.
I mean, I know it's Hosmed, but we haven't seen him play it in a little while, but pretty impressive that he actually brings it out here today. But one way or another, I assume that's got to be the play. But yeah, I think the 𝘁𝗀crank just kind of pops up out of nowhere here.
Yeah, it looks a little strange. I think both the composition, especially on the right side, SPTC, strikes me as experimental, to say. Yeah, 𝘁𝗀, do you like it? Do you think it's enough for them to win the game here?
I like the thought process behind the bot lane. It might not work because but I like the idea of going for it. Of course, I don't think it will be enough on its own, because 𝘁𝗆lo has a lot of comfort and a lot of strong lanes, so it won't be easy. Even if SBTC wins the bot lane, it won't be easy to then translate it to enough of advantage to win the whole game.
Prediction is
𝘁𝗁o.
And Rebel, you go with 𝘁𝗁o. Of course, you go with 𝘁𝗁o. The Rebel Franks. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome my good friend 𝘀𝗀 back into the cast. 𝘀𝗀, take it away.
Ryzo returns with a Hosmed Aatrox. I don't think he's got the hair anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, you love to see it. As he brings out a pocket pick, something he hasn't played in a long time, as Rebel said, but something that is incredibly strong in his hands. You guys have talked a lot about these drafts, but I, once again, am rewarded with one of my favorite champions. His hero has gone towards the set, the top laner in the mid lane. I
didn't think you would admit that, but...
No. Oh, no, you found my secret Twitter. As this is an interesting draft, I agree, for SBTC. Experimental is perhaps the word I would use. But I do like the fact that they have Penguin on this Nidalee. He has used it to very great effect. Until they have Artifact back, they have to do this with their solo lanes. They just don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Hero this time not going for the Aurelia, instead deviating a little bit, because Aurelia against Vex, as I touched on in draft, didn't really work too well for them, especially inside the laning phase. So this time trying to play a little bit more of a standard, standard is the wrong word to use, but less flashy champion that's not going to give Vex as many opportunities to just use her fear constantly, because, yeah, he doesn't really have any dashes. So I don't expect much to happen in this mid lane, to be honest. This just looks like a farm lane to me. And both of these champions can roam quite... Wow, that was weird. Things are jumping into the air today. I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, look, Jin Grenade, it always looks very interesting, very fancy. As I do want to point out, this is a Predator Blitzcrank. So they do need to be very careful at this robot.
Everything is Predator nowadays. It seems like the Predator buff has landed. Everyone is playing Predator now. Level 2 engage.
Oh, yeah, they do get the early level 2 as they're moving forward. The exhaust comes out immediately onto Shogun, though. Really stops that play. You can't fight Yuumi early on, but it is a lot of summoner spells being burned.
That's really, really bad for SE spot lanes, though, because Yuumi, of course, has the natural sustain in the lane, and CBL, especially falling low, means he can't engage freely, but immediately Penguin
For Hook
is
lands,
called.
they die. If Hook lands, they instantly die. He has Flash. Here it goes. Will he land it? Can he get the yoink? Shogun playing around it well, and no! And now they're in so much trouble. The robot's going to be disassembled. BJ flashes over the wall. Shogun, he's in a lot of trouble, but he's got a kitty cat to keep him safe and warm. Penguin over the wall as they're trying to get back in. What happened there? That was bizarre, as Talon will just die. 𝘀cie now in so much trouble. The teleport was cancelled as well, so a bad play for SBTC turns into a great one.
I thought the game would be over after this missed hook. It looked so devastating for the side of SBTC. It looked like a triple kill for free for 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀. Instead, they completely mis-execute. And in the end, it's a 1 for 2. Kill going over to Penguin and Celebrity. The perfect kill distribution as well. Wow, what a play. And we need to see that again. BJ completely choking away another kill because he was on 1 HP and decided to parkour over again. So this attempt is nice. If either Penguin's Q or CBL's hook land, they probably get the kill. Neither lands, so this is really bad execution already. And the Blitzcrank is dead. Look at BJ's HP. He's ticking down with the Ignite, and I think he's just not looking at his own health.
Yeah. He didn't realize he took a Jin shot. He took a Jin shot there, and it caught him off guard. The dark, looked like Dark Harvest, but it's obviously not. Must have been 𝘁𝗀 from Penguin. Ooh, we might have a round 2 as Penguin is here. Hero can move forward
level
for
3
the
though.
Face break. Yeah, he's just going to use the Haymaker, so there's no way they're actually going to fight here. They are just trying to stop this easy push here for SGB.
Yeah, SGB gets a free push, which is nice, enables 𝘀𝗀 to go back for free, and BJ has full priority over the top side. Penguin not able to take the 𝘁𝗁𝗃 away either, though it seems like he got the bot 1, so it's a 1-for-1 trade in the scuttle department, which is always what we want to see. But BJ slightly ahead on the experience, it seems, even though CS going very even between the two junglers. So we need to keep an eye on that, because level 6 Predator Talon has a lot of opportunities, especially with this fight-heavy bot lane.
For sure, but let's, we've obviously been looking at this bot lane a lot as where this early fight has been. Let's talk about someone else though. This mid lane matchup I think is very, very pivotal here for SGB. As 𝘀𝗀 does need to be a huge pivotal player in team fights.
Yeah, and 𝘀𝗀, let's, we have calmed down a little bit, so if 𝘀𝗀 is here, I hope so, we can call up my prepared stat cards, because let's look at 𝘀𝗀's stats compare in week 1 of Spring Split and week 1 of the Winter Split so far. 𝘀𝗀, we know the meme. 𝘀𝗀 was known all the time for being the worst person to CS. Levo is stealing away CS, and look at that, -18 CS at 10 minutes in spring, and in summer so far he's even in CS, so he has gotten so much better. We need to actually lay this meme to the grave, because it's not actually true anymore. But 𝘀𝗀 is a decent laner now, and you need to respect his laning capabilities. He's slightly behind in this game, 7 CS right now, but 𝘀𝗀 has improved so much, and if the trajectory holds true, he's going to be the best CSer in a year.
Well, let's find out. That's right. Your way penciling it in. 𝘀𝗀 better than 𝘁𝗏maker. 𝘁𝗀 might be deader than 𝘁𝗏maker, though, as he is just going to be taken down. I don't know why 𝘁𝗏maker's dead. Don't even bother. As they're going to blast cone back out into the dragon pit there. Look, it's late. Up in the top side, we do have a scrap going on between 𝘁𝗀med and 𝘁𝗀. The ultimate has been used. 𝘁𝗀med will spread his wings, but it's a little bit late as he is just desperately trying to heal, but no! 𝘁𝗀 will clean him up.
𝘁𝗶 is falling apart. Look at the CS numbers in top lane. We were so I was so focused on the mid lane that I didn't even look at 𝘁𝗀med on one of his main picks from the past. He's getting wrecked by 𝘁𝗀. And 𝘁𝗀 so far hasn't been great in lane, so that's very surprising. 𝘁𝗁med solo killed again after getting solo killed by Yoshino on day 1. The Kennen against Mel fight matchup, if you remember that one. So everything is falling apart. They're 2k gold behind SBTC, walking away with a huge lead. And 𝘁𝗀 and 𝘁𝗁med, the two of the main members of the team, actually, two of the main carries, struggling a lot to keep up here. 𝘁𝗁med just disrespecting level 6. It's just straight up a level 6 disrespect against Aurelia. Nothing more to see. He is level 5.
You just can't.
He hits level 6, but it's just too late, and he doesn't even use his ultimate in time. Really bad execution from 𝘁𝗁med.
Yeah, and it's not what we normally see from him. Normally, 𝘁𝗁med is someone we're so reliable on. We rely on in lane, or SGB does, I should say. That's absolutely not what you want to see out of him, as we do have Shogun moving up towards the mid lane, just trying to cover off, get ready for a Rift Herald fight. As we know, these VCS teams do take after some others elsewhere, and as soon as 8-minute comes around, you know it's a game-deciding fight.
Yeah, this is a really bad fight to take for 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗶𝗹. Yuumi's not strong enough yet. Talon is barely a champion. This top laner doesn't even have his ultimate ready, and he has nothing in terms of items under his belt, so they really should not take this fight. The only thing that can help them is either an amazing Shogun ultimate or 𝘀𝗀 landing the most insane 5-man stun of all time, fear, I should say. But yeah, this is super risky. This could cost them the game. They still have a Yuumi scaling and the Vex scaling, so maybe just calm down a little bit. I know it's 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, they never calm down, but this would be one of the situations where you probably just look on, give up a little bit, and try to scale for the late game.
Yeah, I think they need to, but it's not going to happen your way as they're going to move in. 𝘁𝗀 getting a little bit of opening burst. When it goes like this, it can work as 𝘁𝗀 has been destroyed. In goes the Shadow Surge from 𝘀𝗀. He wants to go in onto Hero, still has access to that Haymaker, and a good flash, denying any Vex resets. But now it's SGB with full control over this Herald pit. SBTC wants to have another crack,
SBTC.
though.
Yeah, 𝘀𝗀
they still have a Blitzcrank.
𝘀𝗀 has no ultimate, so he has a hard time finding a way in. He has flash, though, and here he goes.
Oh, there they go. It's an absolutely massive Haymaker. The Showstopper comes in. It's going to be the 1-for-1 at the moment. Shogun now on the run. 𝘁𝗀 opens up, and bang! The first shot straight into the head of the Misfortune. 𝘀𝗀 on the run, but no! We have a sharpshooter on the Rift, and his name is 𝘁𝗀𝗏.
And that's even worse. The fight looked very good at the start. They got the burst kill, but in the end, the power is just not there. Yuumi's not strong enough. This Talon doesn't do anything, especially after already burning through his ultimate. Everything was used on the first engage, and you have to disengage. You can't just overstay. Yes, you got the kill, but you also used everything. All your tools were down, so just go away with the kill. It's a 1-for-0, 1 for Herald trade. That's fine. Instead, they just exacerbate the whole situation on the map, and so many kills going over to SBTC, while sitting on the potential first turret as well. So once this Herald is used, we are going to look at something like a 4-5k gold lead against SGB.
Certainly looks that way as SBTC are playing well. Let's see how this one played out. It started with a pick onto 𝘁𝗀.
Yeah, it's a good collapse, and even this Shadow Surge, very, very nice, because it forces Hero to disengage with the flash. And at this point you disengage, because everything is down. Even Aatrix used his ultimate. There is no way for you can win the fight. 𝘀𝗀 has no ultimate, Shogun has no ultimate. No one has anything available right now. So this disengage is just very poor taste, and they are too tanky. I like the flash W from 𝘀𝗀. I think against different teams, against an actual mid lane champion, it could have worked. But there is the big Haymaker shield, and of course Celebrity finishing off the whole play with such an amazing snipe. Sometimes it's cool to see Jhin do stuff like that. If it's at the end of the fight, I'm fine with it.
One day we'll train you into liking this champion your way. One day.
Never.
Then we'll never get you on Graves. I know that much. Yeah, they do have to play around this Haymaker. This is set in a state where it's not the strongest champion in the world right now. I mean, I'm always going to say that as a set main. But the Haymaker certainly does a huge amount of damage, particularly when it's onto 3 people. But let's have a look at this one, as it will be SBTC claiming another objective for themselves with this Cloud Drake. 3 out of 3 have currently gone the way of the chickens.
Yeah, and very important for this game for SBTC is not only this spawn and the first turret kill that should be imminent here, it's also that the 2 targets that really need gold to accelerate, to scale Jhin and Nidalee. Without gold, they're useless. Oh, big engage though, CBL oversate.
CBL has to flash over the wall. There's a lot of people here. The gun's coming out though. They just have to block. 𝗀𝗀 takes a big chunk. The 4th shot doesn't quite land, but they will just step forward, take this tower. There's nothing the Buffalo can do.
Buffalo is still losing the play, even though they got away with their lives. They are still in a losing position for this play. No counterplay on the other side of the map. And look at that gold. It's horrible. It's 4.3k. I think that's the biggest lead we have seen in 12 minutes so far. Saigon Buffalo falling apart. What is happening to the top teams?
The VCS is a land where no team remains king for long your way. You should know that. Our teams randomly decide to fall apart. And, I mean, SGB did this in their first game of their last series as well, and then they bounced back well. So, who knows? There's still a long series left to play.
Yeah, very true. And usually this team is very strong from behind as well. Very good mental. Their fortitude is up there with 𝘀𝗀 and the likes of them. The anti-Cerberus, you might say. But I want to have a deeper dive on 𝗀𝗀, as he is diving deep into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, but he's kind of misplayed that pretty horribly there. Pressed the ultimate before he'd actually jumped over the wall. Now they're actually just trapped here with the Irelia, with the Blitzcrank coming in. 𝘁𝗲 surfs over the wall, can't quite get grabbed there by CBL. It does look like they're going to get away. Oh, hero!
Not the hero they needed. Definitely not.
Oh, that's dreadful.
Yeah, but once again, not showing the greatest proficiency on these new champions, 𝗀𝗀, that is. Talon, he of course didn't play Talon in spring because no one did. Now there's a new champion and he, so far, is looking pretty dreadful, as you said. They're trying to
Round
go for
3, your way. Oh, Froggy's been baited though. Has the Shadow Surge to get away, using it as an escape just as much as he used it as a kill. Did get the reset, but now 𝘀𝗀 bearing down. This Vex is very frightened. Has another tag if she wants to jump in. There it is. We'll get the assassination. It's all about Froggy. Never mind. He is taken down by the Jhin. Let's have a look at 𝘁𝗲. He has to carry the back half of this fight alongside 𝘁𝗏𝗀. As soon as she can reattach, they're bearing forward. He needs to get this last hit onto the Jhin, but the terrain of Summoner's Rift is playing against him. With a Yuumi here, he should be able to sustain for a long, long time, but it's not long enough, and now it's just a lonely cat taken to the pound.
What a fight! That was so exciting. Froggy almost bringing back everything with this OP champion, as some would claim. He looked very, very well versed on this Vex. Perfect positioning and also timing on the re-engaged. Very impressed with what he just did there, but not quite tanky enough to make it sick. What a fight. SGB still showing very good prowess in the team fights. They're just a little too far behind. The gold lead is now extended to more than 5k. But when you see these kind of fights and the execution of the single members of Saigon Buffalo, you have to think that there's always a little bit of hope. The collapse on Penguin is very good, because he's squishy and has a lot of gold and a lot of damage under his belt, so that's a good start to the fight.
Ooh,
look at Froggy
shocking
here.
Yuumi ult, though. I think that's almost just a misclick. That final chapter was completely wasted.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the Yuumi, apart from the ultimate, played it very aggressively, very aggressive Yuumi play, jumping in and out and even getting caught here by CBL, but he has enough time to get back on top of Aatrox and giving him enough power and healing to sustain almost through the back of the fight. If they're even in gold, I think 𝘁𝗲 just kills everyone here. Unfortunately, they're already 5k gold behind, and then it's just the chicken special, 2 for 1.
Delicious. I could go for that right now. As we return to live gameplay, and at 16 minutes, it's 5k gold lead, which is pretty brutal here if you're a 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 fan. It is SBTC Esports in an absolutely lovely position as they will pick up this second Rift Herald. Every neutral objective has gone their way. And with a dragon in 20 seconds, I think that one might be doing it as well.
Look at 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀, 5-0-5. He is so strong. He's going to burst on everyone, even Aatrox, 𝘀cie together. We already saw some of the crits early on in the fight. 𝗀𝗀 got shocked by the 160 crit very early in the game. Actually wasted his life away because he did not anticipate the Jhin to deal this much damage, and now he's so far ahead of the curve. So 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 really in a position to carry this game home. And SBTC overall in a very good position. They lose their first objective. Finally, SGB finding a way to stem the bleeding to a certain extent, but mid lane is gonna fall.
Yeah, that was well played there. Managed to get something against the flow. They can't stop this mid lane, but they were never going to stop this mid lane. So the fact that they get the dragon is pretty much pure bonus. How do you want to see SBTC approach the next few minutes, though, as they play out from the lead?
I think it has to come from 𝘀𝗀 grouping up with 𝗀𝗀 and maybe 𝘁𝗀 on top of 𝗀𝗀, just looking for picks in side lanes. They have so much mobility. They can come out of nowhere from behind walls with Shadow Surge from 2-3 screens away, basically a moving Zoe bubble. But yeah, that's their only way back. They need some shutdowns. The best target, of course, would be 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶. CBL might be an easy one to go for, because that's still 450 gold, and supports tend to go more aggressively than Jins. So, yeah, I think it's all about trying to get picks and prolong the game to get some items.
𝘀𝗀's in trouble. 𝘀𝗶𝗃 managed to get away from the infernal chains, and yeah, that's a very fed 𝘀𝗀. You can't go near her. There's teleports coming in, but I honestly don't know if you want this, as he's just going to go under the tower to try and murder Shogun. Dodges away from the Shadow Surge, but it's not going to matter as the ultimates do manage to take him down.
At least it's 1 kill back, but they had to invest so much, and they still lose 𝘀𝗀, who's having a shocker of a game. 𝘀𝗀 on his Rezo Classic, sadly also bringing the Rezo gameplay, which we don't like to see. He's much better as 𝘀𝗀. So, really a stinker of a game so far for SGB. And SBTC, I actually misread their scoreline before. Apologies for that. I was thinking of 𝘀𝗀. Of course, SBTC is 1-1. They lost against Cerberus yesterday, but they still looked very competitive, and I think this could be their breakout series that they managed to win against the finalists. Not much to see here. It's just 𝘀𝗀 being very far ahead.
Yep, nothing you can do there. 𝘀𝗀 did his best, but could not cycle through the queues fast enough to give himself any chance. Let's have a look at 𝘀𝗶𝗃 as he plays this one out very riskily. If he wasn't so far ahead, he is dead very, very quickly, but in the end, he forces a teleport and 2 ults.
Yeah, and the Shadow Surge was aimed at the as a counter dive tool, so he thought 𝘀𝗀 would dive on top of Shogun, so that's why he aimed it up there. I blamed him for it, but yeah, I think that was a fine decision for 𝘀𝗀, because if that happened, I think 𝘀𝗀 could have stopped the dive. So both sides played it well. 𝘀𝗀 had no way out of there. He is 2-3, even though he's had 2 solo kills. So in the team fight setup, not super successful. Let's see if that's maybe a point of attack SGB can utilize to come back into this game. But they're so far behind. Look at this. It basically has to be an Elder or Baron steal or something to get them back. Because the 7k gold lead, that's rough. That's rough to come back from.
It certainly is. And I want to... Oh, we go to a pause. So we've got plenty of time to talk about it, because this might be something you want to respond to in a little bit of depth. We often give our VCS teams a little bit of flame for being very unsteady in the mid game. SBTC are firmly ahead. They 90% of the time should win this game. How do they play this mid game out?
It's definitely not the easiest composition to play and to carry to victory, because they have so many melee champions, right? Blitzcrank, 𝘀𝗀, Nidalee in one of her forms, and then also the set, as we're back in game. That was quick. So it's definitely going to be hard to siege inhibitor turrets, so it's going to come down to a Baron. I think they should just try to establish vision on the top side, as they have right now. Look at this vision, very deep into the enemy jungle, so SGB are going to struggle to get close to Baron, and it's already happening. Baron is started, and SGB somehow has to find a way to get there, because the Baron opens up all the inhibitors, and finally SPTC can break the base. It looks like SGB is not going to do anything about this, so...
I don't know if they even know. There's no
looks
vision.
like a professional surrender to me.
Yeah. Probably just wanna go and play game 2. This series is by no means over. Game 2 and Game 3 still very much possible. We have to get to Game 3, of course. But with SBTC looking as clean as they are at the moment, SGB fans might be a little bit worried, and I couldn't blame them.
Oh yeah, this is not looking great. And now the question is, who's the last ADC standing on the SGB side? Is it gonna be Shogun, even though he's losing his first game ever? Most likely. Or is 𝘀𝘀cie going to come back after only playing one game, which was a loss? So I don't think you can really blame either ADC so far for anything that has happened to SGB. Much more on the 𝘁𝗀𝗀 side. Also 𝘁𝗲, of course, with a very bad game so far. Bot side looked stable and alright in this game, even though we see CS disadvantages much more through overall map pressure. But coming back to the SPTC side, they now need to utilize the Baron, not to take a Dragon. I hate when teams over-index into Dragon. Dragon is not that important for you. You're winning team fights anyway. You need a way to break the base. And the Baron is your opportunity to do so for free. So I would really like to see them set up a little bit more of a siege. It's fine if Penguin solos the Dragon, because he doesn't have to be there. But I like what they're doing here, setting up the push in mid lane and bot lane, and try to really get into that base.
Certainly looks that way as the items continue coming in. Nothing particularly out of the ordinary to spot, though, other than the fact that SBTC seems to have a whole lot more of them than the Buffalo do. This mid lane siege going well. Shadow Surge thrown out as the flank has come in from the side. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 racing in with a cat on top of him. They're trying to blow up 𝘁𝗀𝗀, but that's just not the target. It's a set. In comes the Blitzcrank grab, making sure that Celebrity can hit the easiest shot of his life. On the other side of the fight, we do have 𝘁𝗀𝗀 carving up the back line. A bullet time does nothing but hold them back as 𝘁𝗀𝗀 moves in, and it's a big yoink on to the 𝘀𝗀𝗀. He has to flash away. Can it actually get him out of there? It does, but the rest of the team will fall.
That was the last-ditch effort, the Hail Mary engage. I like to see it. SGB has always been a very proactive team, even from behind. And the chances of success in this game, if you just stare down the enemy team straight up, are very slim. Up 1% probably. So I like to see them try and go for the engage, but once again we have to ask where damage, because there was nothing there. The Talon didn't do anything. 𝘁𝗁, of course, he's so far behind. But I have to say, if you just look at this game in isolation, just to look at single champions, this is the first Vex loss that I still see the potential of this champion in. He looked so strong in that team fight. If you just look at Vex, because honestly everything else is just wallet diff. Yeah, hero in normal game, hero dies here, but he's so far ahead. He's so tanky. But yeah, keep your eyes on 𝘀𝗀𝗀 and Vex, and how many times he's able to fear them away. AoE fears. The first one comes in here. That's one fear. Then they try to overdive, or they try to dive into 2 more kills, and he gets another fear of fear on 3 members, I believe. He actually gets away. 3 members.
2. Yeah, he gets out as well. Yeah, I mean, look, this Vex is a champion I think we pretty much all describe as very feast or famine. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is somehow doing a little bit of the intentional fast, as his team is very far behind, but the champion definitely still has potential. I wouldn't hate 𝘀𝗀𝗀 picking it in a game 2. I really, this game, it's not the Vex's fault. They're getting beaten by wallets, you know? It just happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really just top side you have to look at again. Yuumi, I mean, she wasn't great, she wasn't terrible either, so I don't think the Yuumi strategy has to go. MF is just there, just a vessel, adds a little bit of damage, it's always okay, so I don't think in the bot lane or mid lane is really something you need to look at.
Oh, we have a tag onto the Jhin, but it's a good exhaust, stopping the Vex actually getting in there. Now the guns are coming out. The shutdown has come in onto the Blitzcrank. Now 𝘁𝗀𝗀 bearing forward. The spear won't land. And with 𝘁𝗀𝗀 on the other side of the map, SE do not have the follow-up.
So SE lose a member, but they still win the map. They get both inhibitor turrets, probably both inhibitors as well, as SGB walk away wounded and need to heal up to react to anything. I think maybe they can try to go for something. 𝘀𝗀𝗋, once again
They're
on
going
Jhin.
to try and make a play. This is 𝘀𝗀𝗋 just desperately trying to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. And apparently it's his brains, as he has just been absolutely splattered. But now 𝘀𝗋 moving forward. It's Penguin v3. 𝘀𝗶𝗀's coming in, but is it going to be in time to save the Nidalee? It will be, just about. With that stopwatch, 𝘀𝗀𝗋 does cut him down. It's actually 𝘀𝗀𝗋 that picks up the kill. Now it's 𝘀𝗀𝗋 and a cat versus a very angry 𝘀𝗿𝗀. Do you remember the 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀? I certainly do. As he gets knocked up, but it doesn't matter because over the wall goes the 𝘀𝗀𝗀, following onto this Aatrox, the cat doing her absolute best, but 𝘀𝗀𝗶𝗀 does not stop. 𝘀𝗀𝗶𝗀 is in the enemy base, denying them access to their home.
What a ridiculous end of the fight. 𝘀𝗀𝗶𝗀 just chasing them over walls, back into the walls, and 𝘀𝗀𝗋 gets away in the end as CBL tried to get a cheeky little kill there. But the game is still over. 3 inhibitors down. No, it's actually 2. The bot lane inhibitor still standing, I believe, but... The Baron is spawning, the Dragon is spawning, that's Soul, that's Baron, that's 2 inhibitors down. There's not much SGB can hope for, but at least they can show off some of their mechanics. Very good engage. I still like how they approach losing situations, just not doubling down and just scaling, always looking for opportunities. 𝘀𝗀𝗋 with an amazing flank, this time landing on top of 𝘀elebrity, and they finally shut down this Jhin. He's not allowed to go deathless.
Well, it's happening again as 𝘀𝗀𝗋 has found the Shadow Surge. They blow up CBL immediately, but look at the shield on Hero. Gets the punches in as the bullets rain over the top of them. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 now, he's deep without a home, finds his way back into 𝘀𝗀𝗋. Truly, this is the cat house. This game, as 𝘀𝗀𝗋 seems to have him on constantly, but it's a triple kill. And I think it's about to be a quadra kill, Jhin's favorite, as they clean up the Buffalo, teleport to the base. And I'm going to call this one a GG.
The Pentakill man himself, 𝘀elebrity, is not allowed to take the Pentakill because, of course, he's playing Jhin, and Jhin wouldn't want to get a Pentakill. The quarter kill is where it's at. First game in under 30 minutes. We have yet to see the 30-minute mark today, and that was a dominant performance from SBTC to get us to a 1-0 start. SGB limping away from this game, and they need to go back to the drawing board because that was a really bad game.
It certainly was, and it was really just a level of play difference. I will have the analyst desk break it down, but we will go to a short break first. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. All the action is here on VCS English.
And welcome back to the analyst desk with 𝘀𝗀𝗋 and 𝘁𝗶𝗹, of course. Welcome back to the game. What do you think of this one? A very surprising 28-minute game, maybe again, 𝘁𝗶𝗹? What happened here?
I mean, at the beginning of the game, things looked okay to start with, and you have this kind of solid rock in the mid lane in 𝘀𝗀𝗋, but things fell apart. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 has not been able to have the impact this split that he did in the previous split when he was on stuff that looked a lot more comfortable for him. And the more surprising one, again, was 𝘀𝗀𝗋, who out of nowhere just laid a horrid game of Aatrox into what was 𝘀𝗀𝗋's 𝘀𝗀𝗋. In fairness, 𝘀𝗀𝗋 was picked really early. We anticipated it going into the mid lane, so maybe this was 𝘀𝗀𝗋 flexing that out of specifically to counteract this coming through. And if that were the case, props to SBTC and their coaching staff for knowing that that was a possibility and being able to counteract that ahead of time. But yeah, it just seemed like SBTC, the beginning of their game went so much better. 𝘁𝗀𝗋 wasn't able to get them back in, and at that point, game just snowballed out of control.
Oh, it went downhill super quickly. And 𝘀𝗀𝗋, we were questioning the Blitzcrank when it came in, but you noticed some things about the Blitzcrank that impressed you for SBTC in the later stages of the game, correct?
Absolutely. We spent a lot of time discussing the lane matchup into Yuumi, but we forgot to mention that actually when Blitzcrank is ahead, as he was this time, it's really hard for the opposing team to set up the vision to contest the objectives. So SBTC, with their little peaks and these skirmishes that have been doing a lot, they could move the objective first and make sure that if SGB wanted to contest for the objective, they had to contest to walk in blind, and they can't do that against the Blitzcrank, and that ended up giving SBTC a free Baron and more objectives even after that. So that was a invisible map pressure brought by the pick, and it worked a great time. I want to see more of this.
Yeah, and one thing I want to focus on is this 𝘀𝗎𝗎 Talon combination, right? We saw glimpses of it in Worlds here and there. I remember one game EDG played in group stage against T1, I believe, where they played or tried to play Talon 𝘀𝗎𝗎, and T1 countered it beautifully, and it never got to a stage where the Talon could dominate. A little bit of the same, even though the champions to counter it were different, but overall, Rebel, the 𝘀𝗎𝗎 Talon, just 𝘀𝗎𝗎 in general, what is happening? What's going on here?
It's really tough to say. It feels like he's almost playing without direction, or that he's playing a little bit offbeat. Where it's like in the previous split, so much of their attention was thrown directly towards 𝘀𝗀𝗎, making sure that 𝘀𝗀𝗎 could actually get broken out of lane and the two of them could start attacking the map. And this split, they've experimented a lot more with just 𝘀𝗎𝗎 kind of operating on his own, or support for 𝘀𝗎𝗎 coming out and playing towards bottom lane, all these new types of strategies. And maybe that's kind of what's doing him in right now. It's just the fact that, when they're not spending all this resource in a very simplistic, very drawn out way, the way we expect them to week in and week out. Maybe 𝘀𝗎𝗎's just taking a minute to try to reassess and come back to where it was, because this is not looking like one of the rookie of the split candidates from just the previous split in the slightest. He's definitely in much dire straits. It would be nice to see if they could get him into a position of comfort somehow, figure out what that is, and continue to try to reapply it. Because really, I mean, as long as he's doing okay in a game, it feels like the lanes are all going okay, barring that one 𝘁𝗿 game just a second ago. It seems like 𝘁𝗿, 𝘀𝗀𝗎 are usually doing okay. Bottom lane's usually doing okay. So as long as 𝘀𝗎𝗎 is not just like completely losing out the game in the earlier phases, they always have ways to come back.
Let's leave the losers behind us, drop some ~frog emotes, and tell me, the better team today, SPTC, how do they keep winning? How do they complete the 2-0 and move ahead of SGB after today for a 2-1 series score? Clockwork, maybe you can start. What do they have to do to repeat this success and not fall into the same pattern as Team Secret did earlier today and go 1-0 up and then lose 1 and 2?
So I would say keep putting Penguin in comfort position, give him his picks. He's been monstering through this jungle, and also very instrumental weapon to give comfortable bot lane, a comfortable matchup for the 𝘀𝗏𝗏 and CBL. They have been, like, even with the Jhin, which is not notable hyper carry pick, he's been monstering these team fights, even not as a primary carry. So yes, this looks to me the winning recipe. Penguin and 𝘀𝗏𝗏 in positions where they can carry, and they will do it.
Certainly looks that way on the Rift so far. We have the official MVP, which is 𝘀𝗏𝗏. I very much agree with that. Of course, I'm a little bit ADC biased, and even though it's Jhin, he looked absolutely amazing. Gold difference individually at the end, 5.2k. So 𝘀𝗏𝗏 stepping in, being one of the main carries, as he's always been, one of the oldest players in the league right now. Still looking strong so far in week 1. Rebel, maybe as we have a little bit more time, it looks like till we go into the draft, and we've talked about most of the points we wanted to make. Just looking at the whole week for SPTC, do you see a very obvious candidate for Player of the Week from their team? If they finish 2-0 today and 2-1, I think there's going to be one player at least on the list. So who would be your front runner as the main carry of this team, or the main driving force?
I'd say I came in actually in our first day talking about SPTC with two primary people to look at, which are Penguin operating in the very earlier stages of the game, controlling the map, and 𝘀𝗏𝗏 being their kind of like later game insurance and taking it into team fights. And that transition has been pretty much seamless for these two the entirety of the split. I was a little worried when 𝘀𝗏 came in and they didn't have Artifact coming about, and I'm actually a little terrified of what's going to happen with SPTC when Artifact comes back, as to either A, do they need to challenge between him and 𝘀𝗏 and who's going to start? Or B, if he is better than 𝘀𝗏, how this team is going to look given just how dominant they've been already. But my vote would, I think, actually be for 𝘀𝗏𝗏. I feel like 𝘀𝗏𝗏, especially on his Jhin, has just been immaculate for SPTC, and it's been such a pillar of strength here for the side of this team that again, coming into the split, we were kind of hit and miss on, depending, throwing them between probably the fourth spot, as I think where a lot of us kind of ended up for this team, just because we didn't expect them to be able to challenge Saigon, Cerberus, GAM the way that they had previously. But obviously, they're going well against that grain right now, especially if they take a 2-0 against Saigon here.
Yeah, and his KDA is speaking for itself. He has always been high on the KDA mark. I want to go into draft now with the focus on hero, as you just pointed out. He's not supposed to start, and they finally ban away a lot of top laners against hero. So this might now be the challenge for this top laner turned mid laner to fill the spot of Artifact, who's out ill. Can he bring up another champion? As they first picked Jhin, so they are very confident in their ability to play the Jhin again. So 𝘀𝗀, what should SPTC try and lock in for hero here so they can get away with another top laner in the mid lane?
Okay, so there's a bunch of top laners. I mentioned it in the first series about the Sion pocket pick for the Pan. I don't know if Pair and Hero can play the pick, but it could still be viable. Lots of wave clear, easy to get prio, so it can work in the mid lane. And in some tournaments in Europe, we have seen it in the mid lane, so it's not too wacky. And it seems that they are going to go for some double AD in top lane, since again, an AP jungler again for Penguin. So yeah, this strategy can still work, but of course, SGB are starting to figure out and throwing these bans to the top lane. Just forget about the mid lane, it doesn't exist. Just they have a massive value because you are hindering two players with like one ban, and let's see how it turns out. Set is already picked, so maybe more.
I think this Aphelios is super obvious. It was banned a lot of times against Shogun. He's more of the carry player compared to Right. He's more of the facilitating ADC, setting up the other players on this team. So now Shogun, with his opportunity to be the last ADC standing on the day, he went down in game 1. But Aphelios Thresh, that's a good recipe, right?
It's a fantastic recipe. First off, just because the pairing is really good, and when you're playing it into a set which probably goes into the hands of Hero, I mean, it's a lot harder. You don't really have backline challenge as long as Nidalee isn't like hitting you with spears constantly, and it's going to beat out the Jhin in terms of later game DPS. So like you have a better like late game to actually rely on. The other big thing is I don't have a problem with Yuumi as a champion. I think it's a good champion, but like 𝘀𝗀 is perhaps, if not just outright, the best support that we have here in the VCS, and they're going to squander like his just mechanical prowess on something like a Yuumi, which tends to play a lot more passively. It doesn't require that big of mechanics. It just seems like a waste to me. Thresh now has so much more viability in terms of not only playmaking potential with hooks, plays, things like that, but also for positioning and correcting what it is that it comes out from Shogun's Aphelios with things like the Lantern and roaming pressure as well. It's just so much better of a champion to me for this guy.
Yeah, most definitely. Excited to see what 𝘀𝗀 can do. Of course, it's gonna get counterpicked here with Nautilus, the classic my hook is faster than yours, so I win counterpick. The other one was picked away, the 𝘀𝗀, so they go to the other hook champion. And CBL is no stranger to those, because his main champion is actually Thresh himself. So we see a poke composition come out of SPTC. A little bit more risky to play, but a lot of potential, right?
Indeed. Here I'm looking about this mid lane counterpick that Saigon Buffalo are saving. Of course, 𝘀𝗀 was the most solid player in game 1, but leaving the counterpick for him, like, he's probably going to have a good matchup anyway because he's not playing against a mid laner. So I'm a bit confused about the priority, and also this Orianna. I like the because it rounds up the composition very well. I was a bit confused if they wanted to dive in with the Xin Zhao or kite back with the Aphelios Thresh. Nara and Orianna can bridge between the two, so I think they rounded up successfully. Decent composition. It would probably be hard for the SPTC lineup to manage to get a good engage and a good team fight into that.
Yeah, it looks very cohesive on the other side, though. What are SPTC's ways to victory, Rebel?
So first things first, they've got powerful side lanes to work with. Between the combination of Jace into Gnar, where like that is exploitable between that and the Nidalee. The bottom lane, like you had said, like there's this Nautilus Thresh interaction, which is a lot harder for Thresh to manage than the Nautilus most of the time. And with Jhin in the early game to help set it up, that lets Penguin attack these side lanes. I do think Set does nothing for this composition, unfortunately, but that's okay. As long as Hero just kind of sandbags the lane, make sure Froggy doesn't get out and about too early, that means that Penguin should be able to run things. I think that's how they actually end up in a good position, get Celebrity into the late game Jhin.
And is it going to be enough to win them game 2, close out the series and the day?
No, I think Saigon takes this.
What do you think, 𝘀🾶?
If SBTC can play the poke, SBTC wins.
Do you think they're going to win?
Yes.
Okay, there's the call. So 2-0 from 𝘀🾶. And right as we hit the rift, we say goodbye to our analysts and welcome back to 𝘀🾶. Potentially the last game of the day. 4 games in already, and not a single one has hit the 30-minute mark. So I think Saigon Buffalo wants to hit that elusive 30 minutes this time around because their team fighting looks insane on this composition.
Well, 𝘀𝗋, I certainly want a 6th game of the day. I wouldn't have it any other way, so I want SGB to win just for a game 3. I don't care who wins past that point. As this series has been so much fun and I've missed casting with you, so I want more of it. As we head onto the rift, Froggy playing with fire a little bit, but he's very, very safe. Obviously could see his see the brush with his ball. How do we want to play out this early game?
What a complete shift in their composition and style from SGB, right?
Exactly.
Just complete
a late game
double
comp.
back. Late game team fighting composition, 2 very stable team fighting carries in Aphelios and Orianna. Control mage, we have engaged, decent engaged and Peel. It's very cohesive, but it's also very risky because it's very short ranged and they play against Jace, Nidalee and Jhin to follow up. So I think there's quite a lot of potential. Usually in the VCS, the easier compositions win because we just walk at each other and fight all the time. So that should favor SGB. The later the game goes, the more it should favor them. But if SBTC can show us a good early game and strong snowballing, they're Jace, they're Nidalee. The power should just be overwhelming.
For sure, and it starts off well with a nice hook out of CBL, but 𝘀𝗏 answers back with a lovely flay. In the end, the damage is fairly even. It is just what has happened here? Hello?
And 𝘁𝗀 just can't get any pause, can't get to collect himself because permanent invades from Penguin. Once again, back to his Nidalee. And that's a huge steal away from Penguin. Can 𝘁𝗀 even go to his own red buff now?
Penguin, this is rude. He just walks between 2 towers. This is
took
game
2 tower shots. He took
he
the worst path
heal.
possible. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He also has red buff and heals from jungle champs as well. This might actually be impactful for the red buff fight though, because he opted to go for a cam steal instead of going for the red buff. So not quite sure enough of himself to go for the red buff invade. Or is he? There he comes.
I think he is. As 𝘁𝗀, no idea that he's been spotted. That sweeper was not there in time. Hero has priority, as Set so often does. 𝘁𝗀, this is a good read, just moving around to his Krugs. But he has no lane priority. 2 losing lanes on the top side means that 𝘁𝗀's getting beamed.
Oh.
They walk in, Penguin smites away the big Krug, and I think 𝘁𝗀 might have just considered the old shift enter FF15.
Oh yes, he did. Definitely. And 𝘁𝗀 is in such a rough spot because he really tried desperately to get to level 3 using the Crux there. And he didn't smite. He was too hesitant to smite. He had an opportunity to smite down the Crux and go to level 3.
This is game over for 𝘁𝗀. He doesn't exist.
He does have smite, so if he gets close enough, he should be able to smite away this red buff. But Penguin, on the other hand, should not let him in there. There's a teleport. Oh my, they are playing so well around this. Amazing.
And this is so smart. This is something we identified all of last split with SGB. It's something the analysts even mentioned on that desk, which obviously you were on. SGB kind of live and die by 𝘁𝗀. He is sort of the backbone of the team. He is the lifeblood of the team. So just break their back. It doesn't matter if the limbs are good if the back is broken.
Yeah, and they live and die of 𝘁𝗀𝗀 or by 𝘁𝗀𝗀, not just by the virtue of him playing amazingly or being the god of the jungle. All their plans revolved about early jungle pathing, 𝘁𝗀 grouping up with 𝘁𝗀𝗀, coordinating 𝘀𝗀𝗀 to invade together with 𝘁𝗀𝗀. So it's not just 𝘁𝗀𝗀 being an amazing player and suddenly he's not anymore. It's that enemy teams are attacking the strength in the early game, but there's a solo kill in top lane, which we missed, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we hopefully will get a replay because that was just a solo bolo out of 𝘁𝗀. Gets away from Penguin as well, diffuses some of that early momentum that SBTC were building. They obviously still have a huge lead in the jungle, but perhaps the top lane can relieve some of the stress.
Yeah, and SGB winning on both sides on the map simultaneously, even though their jungler actually gets a lot of respite from this. He has so much time to just invade and get some camps.
Let's have a look at what happened.
He
just
jumps
𝘁𝗁
over there.
just kind of
Minions, look at all
outplaying.
the minions. Yeah, he's chasing them into the minion wave, and �Ｅnper is just taking too much minion damage.
Tower shot. Tower shot.
Very well done. What is happening though? Oh, we missed so much again.
VCS replays. We don't have time for it. We can't do replays in this league because you'll always miss something. Shogun getting a bit of damage on the Penguin will retreat to that lantern. And now Penguin once again has full control over 𝘁𝗀𝗀's jungle. Did kill him there. I think it was 𝘁𝗀𝗀 that died. We have to make sure of that, as there's a hook going in onto CBL. They're trying to answer it back. The purple and the blue gun, not too bad. A teleport comes in onto the Jhin trap, though, as 𝘁𝗀𝗀 gets grabbed. Can't use that lantern when the show gets stopped. The boss says no.
They are committing to shutting down 𝘁𝗀𝗀 to an extent that's almost dirty. It's painful to watch this jungler struggling to even get a single CS.
Did 𝘁𝗀𝗀 insult Penguin's mother or something? Like, woo! He's just getting absolutely hammered.
Yeah, and this top laner, who we...
Personal.
Think back to 𝘁𝗀. We flamed 𝘁𝗀 so many times for his champion pool, for his inability to adapt inside a series. And now he's adapting not only to champions, he's adapting to a new role. He's actually the one getting pressure on 𝘀𝗀𝗀, the quintessential roaming player, and giving his jungler a way to dominate the game from start to finish.
Oh, 𝘀𝗀𝗀, you're just on the wrong side of town. As 𝘁𝗀𝗀 was randomly in bot lane, had teleported down, I suppose, so that'll do it.
Yeah, and once again we see 𝘁𝗀𝗀 there completely overestimating his own power. He was level 3. He probably would have lost the 1-1 against CBL at that point. I'm pretty convinced of that. So, yeah, 𝘁𝗀𝗀 just playing, it seems like without his own HUD, because he's never checking his own HP bar. He's always going down first without playing for safety for himself. And now 𝘀𝗀𝗀 under pressure again.
Predator coming in. Set will not find him, though. It is Predator set. More and more champions going to the way of the wolf and using that movement speed. It does make sense on set, of course. This is actually something 𝘁𝗀𝗀 has talked about a few times on cast and on desk. She points out that Orianna's fine in this comp. If you just look at the compositions and turn nameplates off, what's wrong with Orianna? Nothing, except that it's 𝘀𝗀𝗀. And when you have 𝘀𝗀𝗀 in a situation where he can't get priority, Orianna can do it against a lot of champions, but not against Set, particularly in the early game. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 really suffers, and SGB suffers with him.
Well, that's true. In the early game part, look at the gold. It's actually still very even for how absolutely horrible this early game has gone. And
𝘁𝗁 saving them with that.
yeah, and just look at the composition. It's fine for them to be behind if they can staunch the bleeding and just scale into the late game. And the Orianna is not supposed to dominate the early game, right? So it's not the style we know from SGB, but they get away with another objective here. The enemy team didn't try to cross-map. They just were late to the play because Penguin was very selfish and wanted to finish the blue buff first. So in the end, SGB actually stabilizing a lot here, and they're 800 gold behind, but they have a white Unofficial plus the Rift Hold, so that should be at least 2, maybe even 3 platings in the top lane.
Yeah, they're not committing to it yet, as 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is here. And yeah, 𝘁𝗀𝗀, you can throw a lantern all you like. You've got to duck and weave through a lot of members, but it's red, white, don't fight. As the showstopper comes in, trying to hold him back for now. The Jhin ultimate coming out as well. Shogun desperately trying to run away, get some healing. But it is Celebrity once again finding the assassination.
Even though I love that little motto of yours, that little shibboleth, I don't think it's true before he finishes his first item.
It's not.
Yeah, red-white is scary, but it doesn't really work when you don't have the tankiness of your shield bow, when you can't really rely on the scaling lifesteal of your red gun. So yeah, it looks scary for a second there, but he's still a very squishy, immobile AD carry, already taking the lantern, and they focus Shogun down, and they also break the potential tower push. So once again, good adaptation from SPTC, extending the gold lead to now a 1k gold advantage in their favor. But 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 has put in some work. He is back on the better champion, most likely, and he wants to win this game for his team. The captain of the team taking another solo plating for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he is somewhat disgusted at himself after a pretty shocking Aatrox performance in Game 1. Wants to make up for it, wants us all to forget the memories of Raizo. As 𝘀gie, good flash.
Oh, he flashed, even though they had no CC to work with. He could have just sidestepped that one. Very...
It's safe.
Skittish.
It's better safe than sorry. I think that's fine. You don't want to give anything over when your team is winning out in top lane. Fortunately,
is walking
𝘀cie is
too
going to
far
get...
away?
No, he got it. He got it. Just... I was worried there too, but he did get it.
So that's actually equaling up the gold. Yeah, look at the laning prowess from this top team. They are supposed to be among the best laners in the VCS, and we see that in this game at least. They are dominating the laning phase. They are up in CS in all three positions. They can be up in CS in the lane, and they also got a lot more tower platings for themselves. So even though it's 4-1, the gold lead is very moderate. They are outscaling in team fights. And yeah, 𝘁𝗀 is not really a champion. He's not really going to be a champion in this game, I think. That ship has sailed for the most part. He can still be an R-bot and just stand on top of Shogun in the late game and throw everyone away. Play bodyguard, be a second support for your AD carry, and he should have the damage in the late game to cover for you.
He should, but we'll see how that one does go as we continue to progress. That gold lead is not getting any wider for SBTC, and again, considering how disastrous the early game was, the fact that 𝘁𝗀 even exists in this game is truly a miracle. As he's slowly building towards that mythic, and even just a 𝘁𝗀 can be enough for Xin Zhao to have an impact, but oh, you're so dead. You're so dead.
That's the more beautiful Renekton Nidalee combo we all like and know so much about, because that's even more stylish with the set just flash-ing. And 𝘀gie actually gets punished for using his flash preemptively in the last engage, where it was just a no CC Jace coming for him. This time there's CC, and it's a very easy lockdown. The easiest spear of Penguin's life, though with how he's played today, he probably would have landed the spear anyway, because he has been having an amazing series. DK turned Penguin.
Sure.
Just smashing everyone in this week 1.
What do you think of Night Harvester over Rocket Belt on Nidalee? Because I have been led to believe that Night Harvester is, unless you are absolutely never able to go in for whatever reason, Night Harvester is troll.
Yeah, from what I've seen in the community is that Night Harvester is just not a very good item right now. Not many champions are building it. So it's a little bit surprising, maybe still living in the spring meta for a certain to a certain degree, but honestly at this point it doesn't really matter too much. Nidalee is always going to do the same from ahead, and yeah, maybe she can't chase down as effectively against 𝘀gie, but 𝘀gie and Shogun are also immobile carries anyway, so might not have to rely on the extra mobility coming in with the Rocket Belt, so I think it's fine. It's probably the worst choice, like 5-6% worse than the other item, but shouldn't make a big difference here.
Very true, but it's still worth having a think about. We'll have to see if Penguin is going to be punished for it at any point as CBL throws himself forward. Both hooks will miss from respective supports. Penguin not finding... Oh my god.
Yeah, that's where the Night Harvester shines. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
Oh, 𝘀gie's in a lot of trouble. 𝘁𝗀 is here, but it's a 2v1, 2v2, I should say. Where one is on very low health, but it doesn't matter when the shockwave is that good. 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗀 goes in here and just trying to get back towards his own tower. Good haymaker, taking down 𝘁𝗀 1-for-1 at the moment. 𝘀gie now has to find his way away from Penguin. Will do it with the help of 𝘀𝗀𝗏 as the shots are now raining in. Can he find 𝘀gie? 𝘀𝗀𝗏 has to do everything. He can't, as Jin will get the kill. They hop over the wall, and now Celebrity has a Gnar bearing down on him. But but hazmd knows he has to get away. He's clearing wards, but he will just hop as soon as Hero shows himself. Never mind.
Is it over?
It is, I think,
okay.
over.
This is why we love watching SGB games. Even if they're behind, they are always good for some nice aggressive plays. And that was actually a very highly mechanical fight from both sides. Very, very good dodge and sidesteps there from 𝘀cie on 2 different abilities. Then also insane accuracy from 𝘀cie on the other side. And hazmd played it flawlessly from start to finish. So very good execution and getting SGB on the scoreboard a little bit more. Especially the kill for 𝗀𝗀 might go a long way for them. Unfortunately, 𝘀cie, of course, missing an opportunity to farm some more. He was ahead in CS, now he's behind, because he's constantly chased down, constantly under pressure. Finally has his flash back up, but it took him such a long time to get there again. And suddenly he's own 3. We praised him a lot.
Look at the gold. Look at hazmd.
Yeah, hazmd is putting it on the show. He is the main carry today.
Well, this
it's hard to carry on Gnar. So let's see if he can do it. All the gold is going to plateau a little bit in terms of item efficiency after 2 items. Because he can go more aggressive, but it's not really practical. Most Gnars tend to go a little bit more defensive after 2 items. So all that gold on the Gnar needs to be funneled into the other late game carries. Because if this is still the gold distribution in 10 minutes and 15 minutes, then SGB is going to struggle in team fights.
For sure, they definitely want to get this 𝘀cie strong and fed, but he does have that Immortal Shield Bow now, very tanky in fights, 480 carry at least. Is about half an item or so behind Jhin at the moment, who's already got that Mortal Reminder. 𝘀cie, the comeback from a disastrous early game certainly looks real. Where are SGB going to be attacking next?
Hopefully as little as possible, because their composition
or
should not be
defending,
attacking.
I should say. Yeah.
So there's a dragon coming up. It's only the 2nd dragon, so not really a dangerous territory yet. But SBTC desynced their Herald spawn and their mid pressure with the dragon spawn a little bit. So there is an opportunity now for SGB to push back out the mid lane, reconquer a little bit of the vision around the dragon, and maybe go for a little bit of a fight there. Dragon is a choke point where Orianna suddenly is much stronger. Same goes for Shogun's ultimate, 𝘀cie's ultimate, so that's potentially a very good spot to fight for SGB.
Potentially. As another spear just rips 𝗀𝗀 apart. I don't think they can go for Dragon now. They have to just back right off. Give this one to SBTC. Who cares? It's a 2nd Dragon. It's 17 minutes. Soul is so far away. You have an 𝘀cie on your team. You don't mind all that much, particularly when your jungler just gets wrecked by a spear.
Yeah, out in the open is where you don't want to be. You want to be going in and out of vision, smoke and mirrors with your positioning, trying to go for a flank, maybe trying to have your 𝘀cie targets behind the other targets so you don't get too much poked down too much. Because the longer you stay in an open field, they're just going to wreck you. This is dangerous. CBL looking for a potential engage, and 𝗀𝗀 is just pulling the trigger.
Yeah, Hero's just been caught out, puts up the Haymaker shield, but it's nowhere near enough. He just goes down. There's Penguin coming in from the side. The spear won't land. This should be an easy back off.
And what a punish from SGB, realizing that SBTC was setting up a little bit of a side lane play with the Jayce. Jayce does get his tower finally, but they lose the mid tower, which is much more important, especially for the upcoming dragon fights. While SGB's mid tower somehow is still standing, even though they're playing against Jayce, Nidalee, Jhin, and Nautilus.
And now it's another bit of a scrap coming in as hazmd is being jumped on. Has that Gnar bar building up, jumping forward, wants to try and get it, and they'll get that first kill onto 𝘀𝗀. This Jayce looking absolutely shocking.
It's turning into a baseball game. We are throwing the game back and forth, and suddenly SGB in a winning position. They already have the outscaling composition, and they are now ahead by 500 gold. More objectives on the map. hazmd is super strong. And the good thing about their gold distribution is, yes, their jungler is behind, but their jungler is also very useful still with very little gold compared to the other side where the enemy top laner is behind and he's Jayce. And Jayce does scale insanely well with the items, but from behind, in the mid game, it's not the greatest champion to have in your side.
Yeah, like he scales very, very well with items. Unfortunately for Jace, League operates under a capitalist system wherein he needs money to acquire items. He will not be given them, despite his need. And Penguin is still a point of huge power, though. This 𝘀𝘀cie is still terrifying your way.
But he's also still 𝘀𝘀cie, so team fights are not where he shines. So they want to move into the side lane. That's why the punish from SGB was so impressive, because SPTCC tried to play towards their composition strength, try to set up the siege composition, try to set up the side laning with their strong points on the map after getting another dragon. And SGB immediately pounced on the opportunity and punished them for overstaying their welcome and just playing a little bit too lazily, I'd say, in terms of positioning when it comes to hero there under the tower. Thought the tower saved you, but rule 1, towers don't save you. And he disrespected that one. So SGB now in a very comfortable spot. If they get the next dragon, I think the game is... The onus is completely on SPTC to drive the game home.
Yeah, I think that's very likely, but here we have a Jhin ultimate being used, and 𝘃𝗀 has just been absolutely destroyed. Somehow it's a shutdown. Apparently someone needed to shut the Xin Zhao down in this game, and that's just going to be Baron going over. 𝘃𝗀 makes a mistake, and they're hard punished.
They're all squishy though, and the Baron is taking away the resistances, so this is a big opportunity for 𝘀𝗀cie. Can he land the huge shockwave? The 3k elo shockwave is on the cards.
Yeah, we need to see it. He needs to land it. They're moving forward. There is also an 𝘀𝗀cio's blue ultimate. There it is. It's a lot of damage. In the end, it doesn't matter. It will be Hero trading his life to secure that Baron buff. They're going to move forward, though. 𝘀𝗀cc about to go into that Mega Gnar form as 𝘁𝗀cc turns gold. They can't lock anyone down, though, and Penguin, with a snipe, has made sure that at least one member of the Buffaloes will pay for this, and Celebrity, with a lovely flash, getting away from 𝘁𝗀cc. The only person that's going to die here is CBL, and maybe some of the Buffalo, but maybe not even CBL, as the Nautilus is totally fine, coming back into the fight. 𝘀𝗀cc now will fall. Penguin caught out in the middle of the enemy team, tried to get onto 𝘁𝗀cc. It fails. It's a shutdown. Going over to 𝘀𝗀cc.
SPTC was ready to get away with murder there, but then they just returned to the crime scene for no reason whatsoever. They just walked back in, looked at the corpse, laughed at it, and then the policeman.
Yeah, they crouched down next to the corpse and went, dude, the guy that did this must have been really cool, hey.
Oh, it's so unfortunate to see that from one of the teams we are trying to let into the top 3, but this is not the way you have to play to win these kind of games. 𝘀𝗀cc with a horrible fumble on the shockwave. He had such a huge opportunity. As you see the whole of the replay, this is going to cost us some kills, I'm sure of it. But yeah, 𝘃𝗀cc, for the, I think, 3rd time in this game, mistimes the lantern. So he takes the lantern too early while the Nautilus CC is still available, and then he's just a sitting duck. He's very easy to kill. Look at 𝘀𝗀cc shockwave. He's looking for an opportunity, and then he uses it just on the Nautilus, I believe. Oh, that's such a waste. And they are ready to get away here, but then they over-chase into the fight again. Too confident. I like Penguins. Wow, 𝘀𝗀cc really sold his support there. He could have blocked that spear for 𝘁𝗀cc. He just let 𝘁𝗀cc die instead. But yeah, why are they walking back in? 𝘁𝗀cc is so tanky. He's the strongest member. You have to respect him. Instead, they all die. CBL just spider-naughting at the edges of a screen for a little bit of a show. And the game is still even. SGB gets the dragon. And as I said before, if they get the dragon, they're in a super comfortable spot. And now the game has slowed down. The composition has scaled. 2 items for the 2 carries. Almost 3 items for the big tank in the top lane. And this should now be SGB's game to lose. And 𝘀𝗀cc's internet might have disappeared for a second there, because he's also frozen on my screen. So yeah, let's just enjoy the rift for a while without 𝘀𝗀cc, without Rakan interrupting us all the time. Haha. But it's a super close game. Still, we have 400 gold between the teams, and SPTC is not far enough ahead to really play from ahead anymore. But 𝘀𝗀cc, a little bit of pressure on the tower. I like this push still. SPTC playing proactively, using their Baron, and there's the engaged CBL catching 𝘀𝗀cc completely off guard. What a nice way to come around again. They basically try to give him the false sense of security there, as 𝘀cie needs to be protected. This time it's the support that needs to be protected, and they manage to keep him safe.
How's it going your way?
Welcome to the cast.
I'll tag in at least until 𝘀cie gets back.
That's a good idea.
Oh, is he? Hey, okay, never mind. Goodbye.
Really? I can't hear him. Hello, 𝘀cie? Oh,
Okay. Well, this is... How is it that we just continue to get back and forth between these two teams? Where the way you put it earlier, was it like throwing the ball back and forth between them two? Like just a second ago, we were like super good about SPTC not having to worry. They had this Baron buff, they had this gold advantage, and then Saigon's able to push them back out of this base. No inhibitor take. Baron buff's gone. Like it's a 1,500 gold lead. What in the world?
Yeah, I think SPTC is showing a little bit of jitters and just too afraid of actually winning the series. They were in such a great spot, but now they overstayed too much, and the composition was always going to catch back up to them, the composition SGB selected in this game, right? So much team fighting power. What do you think? What are the chances right now to win the game still, SPTC, that is?
I mean, they still do have like celebrity in their grasp. They got this Jhin to potentially put pressure onto Shogun. Penguin is still super strong as well. It's just a matter of being able to actually access, you know, the carries of the side of Saigon, where it's like, okay, Orianna, Aphelios both need to be brought down. The protection's there from 𝘀cie. You know, you have engagement from 𝗀𝗀. It feels so difficult to get there, but it's not impossible at any point during the course of this game that like Orianna or the Aphelios might get caught out at some point.
Yeah, I think there's a huge looming dark cloud over their heads, which is the Infinity Edge completion. Shogun is so close to that one. If he gets Infinity Edge, I think it's super hard for them to fight, because that's so much damage. It's not here yet, so maybe now is the time to fight.
The other thing that like is also right on the brim of being a possibility here is that you do have the second dragon taken from the side of SPTC. If somehow they can expand this game into, okay, not just second dragon territory, third dragon territory, but fourth dragon territory into Soul Point, and that's the fight they have to take, they can force Saigon into situations that might be uncomfortable for themselves as a possibility potentially. Although now with this proximity of Baron within 30 seconds of the dragon, I feel like it's going to be hard to double dip into both of those objectives. And you can see they're not even leaning towards Dragon. They've got some setup towards the mid-river, but they've shifted a bunch of their vision up towards this Baron buff, making sure they kind of control both areas of the map. As Saigon, they're working right up mid lane. They're making sure they're going to have mid-priority to be able to work their way into these objective pits and use this 5-on-5 comp the way they designed it to.
Yeah, very early. Just teleport. Oh, hello. Welcome back.
Hello.
𝘀cie.
Apologies. My computer completely hard crashed there, and I had to reset up all of my audio settings.
Can you see the screen? Because there's a lot going on right now.
Because there is a fight coming in. That is a big gnar there. Shogun will pick up that first kill on 𝘀cie𝗶𝗹𝘀. Hero now doing a lot of damage onto 𝘀gie. On the other side, it's 𝘁𝗺 being a hero, tanking 3, double kill. Picked up for this Aphelios. He needs to make up for lost time. As 3 more on the table, not really available as the curtains open. They want to find 𝘁𝗁. They won't manage it, and they play Gatekeeper for 𝘀gie, but no Baron will be taken.
Thank you very much, Rebel, for stepping in. 𝘀cie is back, and the action has returned as well. Just both teams waiting very patiently for us to sort out the issues. And the first thing 𝘀cie sees is a Baron, and Baron might still be on the cards. What a sneak here! They have very good guns to take the Baron, tank the Baron forever. You don't really want to tank the Baron. Oh, 𝘀gie showing, and that actually gives it away, but it's on 6 points.
Too late, though, I think. As
those
Emperor and
Penguins
Penguin
in
are
the
getting
area.
close. Oh, he can actually get in here for a steal if he lands a spear, and he does! He kills 𝗀𝗀! He kills the worm! They kill the Aphelios! 𝘀gie, you sold your team up the river there by walking on that ward! It's an absolute disaster!
They finish the game here. They certainly want to finish the game. They don't want to take
I
a
think they
single
can. 3 dead.
team fight. 𝘁𝗺 has his ultimate, has flash available. He needs to go now. Yeah, and there he goes.
Yep, they're doing a lot of damage there onto 𝘀𝗶𝗆, but it's not going to do enough as the showstopper is absolutely massive. And now it's just 𝘀𝗀𝗺gy left to hold his base against the rampaging chickens. But it doesn't matter when you've got Celebrity. He's on the grassy knoll and he's taken down the president. They move in, they find the towers, they find the game, they find the series.
What looked like one of the most cheeky and genius Baron takes of all time, just putting everyone over the wall. It turns into the most horrible misstep, and 𝘀𝗀𝗺gy showing on that ward. You can't really blame him, you don't know what the wards are, but that's the most unfortunate ward of times. They lose 0-2 to SPTC, and another game ends before the 30-minute mark. What a disaster, and SGB have to... They just have to regret that decision, even though it looked so good. Oh man, that was a very explosive end. I think I can thank you for the day, 𝘀𝗁𝗋𝗋. So thanks for coming back to the biggest action of the whole day. And I think we're going to throw it back to the analyst desk. So I'm going to stay and let Rebel and 𝘀𝗀𝗆 try to make any sense of that last decision there. And the most unfortunate ward in history of the VCS. Just silence, Rebel.
I mean, first off, like, this is the team. This is my team. It's upsetting to watch them lose in such a humiliating fashion like that. The ward was great. I know that they would have walked into the river and they had set up, so they had some idea that there is potential of that being there, especially when the timer's like dark and they go to the dragon, but they probably wouldn't have gone there without the vision of 𝘀𝗀𝗺gy. That was maybe the one timer they had left to win that game too, which is the worst part about that. Is like SPTC, we talked about their composition wasn't scaling. You have like the Aphelios was almost on the infinity edge. You had Orianna almost on third item. We're getting into the territory where the team fight was going to be way too hard to deal with. This was the last strike that could have come out, and it's all that it was necessary to actually cost the game. They found the last possible minute of their team fight being better. They found this perfect situation where they had the setup both in the Baron and the Dragon River, so they were able to double dip like we talked about, and all of a sudden, Saigon just ends up losing the game off the back of a really rough take right there.
SPTC showed a very good early game clockwork, then they fumbled a little bit in the mid game, but overall we have to be super impressed, right? Beating Saigon Buffalo in 2 sub-30-minute games. What a performance, once again, 2-1 now in series score.
I am absolutely impressed, especially by Penguin's early game. I believe, okay, we're giving a lot of credit to Penguin and he deserves all of it, but we can't overlook the new coach 𝘀𝗀𝗃's intervention here. This early game, I think specifically, I think it showed really well that SPTC came with a precise plan. They were tracking 𝗀𝗃 in every single camp that he was going to make. The lanes getting prio to help invade, I think at minute 4, and then teleport in his own jungle. That was designed to shut 𝗀𝗃 down. And it worked great. And it means that if SPTC is such a team that can prepare with such detail for opponents like Saigon Buffalo, I'm not going to say that they're going to be top 2, but, you know, I'm starting to see something great in this team.
Yeah, I think it almost looks like Saigon Buffalo, like an exact clone of Saigon Buffalo and the way they won most of their series in the spring split. If you take away the nameplates and maybe some of the champions that wouldn't have been played, it looks so similar, right? Everything through mid-jungle pressure, invading into the enemy jungle and taking the priority in the game super early on. Could Saigon Buffalo have done anything better there? Rebel, was there a huge mistake that led to this, or just better strategy?
I mean, we talked about, or you guys were able to mention on broadcast how, you know, having a not pushing mid lane for 𝘀𝗀𝗺gy is kind of usually not very indicative of success for the team, and not having a pushing lane for 𝘁𝗲𝗻 as well. We talked about the Jace being strong, costing so much of the game plan early for the likes of 𝘁𝗀𝗀, just because he's not expecting the immediate pressure coming out from the Nidalee. I mean, the Nidalee literally cross-mapped his own jungle in front of his eyes, and there was nothing that he could do about it because his lanes weren't there to support him. And that's, again, this team doesn't seem to be able to play around their jungler particularly well. If 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is the one trying to absorb resources, it feels like that is a place that is uncomfortable for the side of Saigon to end up. I really think that they have to go back to having 𝘁𝗀𝗀 on something powerful. Things like, I mean, Udyr is within meta's reach. We've seen 𝘀𝗀𝗃 run it to really solid success with the Predator. But then there's like other powerful picks that could be coming about. I know 𝘁𝗀𝗃 got buffs on the same patch Udyr did, and those are the two biggest champions. And there's plenty of other things that you could go with that are heavy ganking champions to come about here, hopefully to help out your lanes. But I feel like that's where Saigon's pressure's got to come from. More powerful jungler that attacks the lanes rather than going for softer scaling junglers that need lane support.
I think Clockwork, our predictions for the end of the regular season standing are crumbling even in week 1 already. So I did not expect this to happen, but I want to maybe look at the MVP discussion a little bit. I know usually we don't really dwell on it too much, but I think for a series like this, maybe you can talk about the series MVP. For me personally, I think it has to be Penguin. Do you agree, Clockwork? Do you think there's another candidate here? 𝘀_cie maybe, potentially?
𝘀_cie also showing up really well. Of course, I am very high on the Killer Queen because he also showed up really well and won versus 𝘁𝗀𝗏. But he has one more series tomorrow, so I'm gonna wait until then to have a complete judgment. Other than him, what was on the first series? Oh yeah, we've had a masterclass by 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑦 this week, so he's also up in contention to get an MVP award for the first week. So yeah, it's really nice to see that new names and also veteran names are showing up so well against a split that we already had in mind as already written.
Anything to add, Rebel?
I think.
I mean,
yeah, they find all the discussion on the MVP. These are the first names that comes to mind for the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list. You talk about Penguin celebrity from this team. You talk about Killer Queen. I think 𝘁𝗏𝗏s and Coded could arguably be on that list as well, because I think both of them have had really good performances pretty much every single game that they've been about. And Cerberus being the only other team that's like actually been as successful as they have. Artemis, Ego, Yado are all within that conversation. But for SBTC specifically, I think it's worthwhile just to have Penguin be in that conversation. I think Penguin honestly kind of deserves it. I think he's been a slight cut above in terms of jungle competition. Hasn't really been tested too heavily. Hasn't played against any of the real top contenders and what would be supposed to be 𝘁𝗏𝗏, Killer Queen. Hasn't played against the best of the best in 𝘀𝗃𝗃 yet, but still we're right at that precipice where that's going to be necessary soon enough. But yeah, for week 1, I think it's more than easy enough to say that Penguin could very, very easily be in that running.
Well, and speaking of 𝘁𝗏𝗏 and Killer Queen, the last thing I want to touch on for tomorrow, to look ahead to tomorrow's games as we close out the day. Just a quick preview. Of course, tomorrow we are going to return with much more detail, much more intricate analysis. Just you two tell me, what do you expect for tomorrow? We have 𝘀_cie against 𝘁𝗏, I believe, and then 𝘀𝗀𝗋 should be playing against BTS. So on paper, these games maybe don't look too enticing, but with the way week 1 has been going and all the upsets that have been happening, who knows, right?
Exactly.
I think, yeah, 𝘀𝗀𝗏 versus TF probably ends up being just a flat out 2-0, and I think 𝘀𝗀𝗏 takes the top spot. The really curious game actually ends up being 𝘀𝗀𝗃 versus 𝘁𝗏𝗏sky, as they're both sitting at the bottom of the standings, and our expectation is like,
What a
okay,
sentence.
yeah, 𝘀𝗀𝗃 is supposed to be a cut above all these other teams. And it is possible that they ran headfirst into 𝘀𝗀𝗏, who's a top 2 team, and also Cerberus, who is a top 2 team right now within the league, which is the problem that could come about. So maybe this is their opportunity to show, okay, we're not a bottom 4 team. Stop freaking out. We just happen to run into 2 of the best teams in the tournament in the first week of play.
Personally, I will not allow 𝘀𝗀𝗃 to lose tomorrow's series. That
you
is
won't
not
allow it.
That is absolutely not within the realm of possibility, and I will step out of reality if that happens.
𝘀𝗀cie gapping Levi? Not
𝘀𝗀cie gap.
possible?
No, that's possible, 100%. In fact, actually, I'm going to hold clockwork to that. That if Gam loses tomorrow to Burst the Sky, he's got to make a sizable donation to the 𝘀𝗀cie fan club for everybody to get nice T-shirts. So
And that's only fair.
Let's.
But with that, I think that's it for today. We have had 2 amazing series, a little bit surprising, especially game 1. And these 2 games, and especially the meta, and yeah, the domination from SPTC, especially game 1. SGB now need to bounce back in week 2, but they're done for this week. 2 more games tomorrow. We're on day 5, 1 more day to go, 6 days a week. And we're signing off the day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And of course, remember, you can subscribe to us. You can help us out. Donating helps us the most, of course. Subscribing is amazing as well. You get access to our nice emotes. You can subscribe to our Patreon, or become a patron, I should say. And of course, most important of all, join the amazing community. Click on the Discord link, and yeah, you can have discussions. Even the stream is not running, so yeah, go ahead and get in here. That's it for us. We're signing off for the day, and see you tomorrow. Have a good day.